Hi, I want to answer a question that I feel can relate to so many people out there who are experiencing a core abandonment wound and how to deal with that. And the question is from Simply Big Man, who wrote, "Good day, I need some answers, please. I was the one that was left. Felt empty, lost, alone, and dejected. Took me over 2 years to gain some clarity. I'm a divine feminine male, and it feels so awful to seemingly be drooling over a female without my divine masculine female giving a hoot. I gave up on her but got back to thinking of her again. Everyone is telling me to let her go and look onto someone else. Have known her for 10 years, dated for 6 years, and have been in separation for about 4 years now. I finally made up my mind to let her go on Friday, and by Sunday morning I started having all sorts of panic attacks and anxieties, and everyone thinks I'm just being a sissy for no reason. She is obviously seeing someone else and preparing to settle down with him. I'm tired of waiting and thinking of her every morning when I wake up. I'm convinced right now that it may be some infatuation on my part because she doesn't care one bit. What do I do? I need some good and direct counsel, please." Okay, Simply Big Man, thank you so much for writing in, and I will try and be as direct as possible. Clearly there's a core abandonment wound that you're working with here, and it is very painful. So my understanding is you are a male in a heterosexual relationship, but the energy of this female is predominantly masculine. So what it implies here is that she's the runner, she left, and you're the chaser. I'm curious to know whether you are truly a divine feminine at your core, or if that has been an adaptation of yours. And what I mean by that is that collectively there are a lot of imbalances between the relationship between the masculine and feminine. So to start off with, we all have a combination of both feminine and masculine energy, but at our core we're predominantly either masculine or feminine. So to make a relationship healthy, whole, and fulfilling for both parties involves us being true to what our core is. Now, if you are feminine at your core, that's one thing, that's fine. But if you are a masculine who has learned to predominantly be in your feminine energy, then what is being mirrored to you by this woman is the part of you that you've disowned. I hope that makes sense. And so how that happens when it is an adaptation and not an authentic reflection of what our core energy is that, for example, and this may or may not resonate, as a boy, you were demasculated by your mother or predominantly female figure, and you learned that it's safer to take on more of the feminine qualities. So what would happen in a relationship is that you will attract a woman who's predominantly in her masculine form and be really attracted or compelled towards that, because that is a part of you that you've disowned. Hope that makes sense. So firstly, it's differentiating between whether you are truly a feminine man or whether you are a masculine man who has learned to take on a predominantly feminine persona as part of the way that you have learned to adapt in interpersonal relationships starting on from very early in life. Feelings, I'm curious to know when in your childhood you can remember feeling empty, lost, and dejected. There would have been something that had happened, and that's an abandonment wound. And this woman has triggered your abandonment wound. But the actual feelings of being lost and empty and dejected did not start with her. They started earlier on in life, and they're coming up for you now in order for you to heal that and reclaim your authentic self. So you've been a part. I mean, this is also very painful, so I just want to say that I really empathize with this. It's a very painful scenario because you've known this woman for 10 years of your life. You dated for 6 years. So there are, besides for the actual person, when we are letting go of someone, it is not just the person we're letting go of. We're letting go of the dreams and expectations and ideas and beliefs that we had about our future and everything that we mapped out in that time. So it is more than just about letting go of the actual person. It's letting go of the life that you thought that you were going to have. So you're definitely not a sissy, and you've been working for 2 years to gain clarity. So it sounds like it was a really shocking separation for you. And that's really understandable. So you've gotten so far, and then when you finally made up your mind on Friday to let her go, you had panic attacks and anxieties. That's really interesting. Oftentimes, and also with this idea of being infatuation, so it's really infatuated. It's really interesting because a lot of the time, infatuation is a cover-up for the lack of intimacy that we have with our core self. So what does that mean? How does that look like? So when we've experienced abandonment as children, there's a part of us that throughout our life we have been neglecting. Our emotional self, our psychological self, our needs. There are parts of us that we have separated from when we experience that core abandonment wound. So what happens when we become infatuated with someone, when we're obsessively thinking over another person? What that really is a distraction. We are distracting ourselves. The mind is so clever. We distract ourselves as to not focus on that emptiness, on that pain that is sitting there. Right? So part of coming out of infatuation and limerence, I think it's called limerence, is like when we are so preoccupied with another person, it's because we don't want to look at ourselves. There are parts of ourselves that we can't confront, we can't face, because there's a lot of pain there. And so when the mind goes elsewhere, it's a way to, it's almost like coming out of infatuation is akin to coming out of a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction, where we have to regain sobriety over our mind and over our emotions. And that's a process, because part of infatuation is distraction, but it's also self-soothing. If I start to and of course this doesn't happen consciously. I know you're not sitting there thinking I'm going to, be infatuated with this person and think about her all day long. And it's very painful. It's not as though you're meaning to do that, but it is almost like a response to trauma, a coping mechanism. So we distract ourselves, but we also self-soothe. And the way we self-soothe is by creating fantasies, future scenarios. And that's a way that we are sort of helping to soothe that part of us that is experiencing abandonment to the point where it is just so painful that we will do anything to escape that pain. Does that make sense? So when you experienced the panic attacks on Sunday, so there was some part of you that reached a threshold where perhaps you had a moment of clarity, or like a reality check where you realized this person has clearly moved on. It's so clear that she has no interest in me. These feelings are not reciprocated, and here I am with all this emotion and it's not going anywhere. So maybe in that moment you decided, I'm letting this go. This is not something I want to hold on to anymore. And when we let something go, we have to sit with the pain, the emptiness, the space that letting go creates in us. And so the panic attack and the anxiety is sort of like the veil that you pulled off, the coat that kept you, even though it was painful and uncomfortable, it was more bearable than to have that taken off, and the realization of, I'm just empty and alone and dejected and sitting with this space. I don't know how to cope with that. And that's where we go back into the chasing energy. That's where we go back into the ruminating, fantasizing, projecting, all of those sorts of things. Because it takes a lot to sit there and really allow ourselves to experience the devastation of what happened to us as children. And I'm not implying that to heal an abandonment wound we have to dig back when we were 3 years old and dad left us, or whatever the circumstances have been for you. But one way or another, and there are different modalities and ways of doing that. And it's also something that we do in stages and very slowly, because we have no idea of the shock and the trauma that induced in us as children. We don't remember that. And it's not a psychological thing. It's not a memory. It's an imprint. And it's deep. But on some level, it does require for us to go back to that time energetically. So what I'm suggesting is that there's a part of you that got stuck there, that little child that got stuck in those feelings of abandonment. And yeah, you've moved on, you've grown up and things have happened and so and whatever else. But energetically, there's a part of you that is still trapped, still lost in that space. And you've created all these adaptations in life, either running away from intimacy or chasing, which is also a form of running away from intimacy, because neither of those states are balanced. Intimacy requires for us to stay still and allow ourselves to be seen, heard, and felt. Most of us are so scared of that, we attract partners who will abandon us so that we can chase, so that we can continue to play out that pattern as to keep the core wound that's underneath that contained. So chasing energy is a form of distraction, just as the running energy is also a form of not being able to be present to what true intimacy requires. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see in the running energy, but the chasing energy is much the same wound, just expressed differently. What advice do I have for you? It's painful when you are running after someone who has moved on, or even if this person hasn't moved on and really dealt with herself and her wounding, she's not giving you any attention. She's not open to you or the relationship. So yes, the advice would be to let her go. But I also appreciate that that's a lot easier said than done. And we go through stages because there's a lot we're grieving in that process. And I strongly suggest that what you're grieving is not only the 10 years of knowing this person and the 6 years that you've been together, but it's a lifetime of loss. The loss of yourself, the parts of you that have never been seen or heard or felt. And that you may to some extent not even be aware of because it's so deeply buried for most of us. As these things are coming up for you through the triggers of this person who is not reciprocating in your feelings, you have an opportunity to really go deep and heal those core wounds and those things that are coming up for you. So my question to you would also be, why is it so hard for you to focus your energy and attention on yourself, on your soul growth and your evolution and becoming the best version of yourself? Why is that so hard? And I'm not saying that in a like, as I say that, I know that for myself. I know how hard that can be. But it is a question to ask yourself, because behind the reason of why it's so hard and why your mind continues to go into her first thing in the morning and throughout the day and all of that torturous stuff is because there's something there that is too painful for you to look at. So the first step to healing, firstly, it's recognizing what I'm working here is my abandonment wound. It's coming up for me through this person, and it is there because my higher self, God, source, however what your beliefs are, is pointing that out to you because you're ready to heal. You're ready to evolve. You're ready to take your life to the next level. That's the reason why it's coming up for you in the intense way that it is. So how to heal the abandonment wound is every time your mind goes towards her, just know that that is a distraction, that's an avoidance, and that's a self-soothing. So what am I distracting myself from and what am I soothing myself from? And that will take you back into the body, because the mind is not going to get us there. It never will get us there. We have to go back into the body to firstly bring up and to release all these suppressed emotions that are sitting there. The pain, the hurt, the neglect. So every single time that your mind is going to this person, bring it back to your body. In that moment, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Like a broken record, literally. What am I feeling right now? What's the feeling? Your mind will continue to project out there. Come back. What am I feeling right now? Anxiety, fear. Where is the anxiety? Where is the fear? Where is it sitting? Go into it. Don't be afraid of your emotions. That is your greatest superpower. And if anything, this lady is helping you to balance what seems to be a disowned masculine energy in you. And as you do that, because it seems your feminine energy is already quite developed, but as you balance more of the masculine energy, that pull towards her will subside. You will feel so much more empowered because the things that you have been looking for or chasing for in her are actually in you. You're just reconnecting with them and empowering yourself. And that push energy will no longer be there. You will be balanced within yourself. You will not need those things in the other person. As you do that work, every time, go back to your emotions. Go back to where is it sitting in my body. Breathe into it. Stay with it. Don't distract yourself with external things or even trying to get into another relationship as a form of distraction when you're not really ready for it. Use this opportunity to heal on the deepest level. You will rise into a much more evolved, higher version of yourself. And you know what? Those thoughts, when they come, just let them go, because if this person is truly your twin flame, the mirror of your soul, you don't need to worry about anything. Life, source, energy, and everything is energy and everything is magnetic. You become the best version of yourself and you will attract either her back in if she's your twin flame and that is the higher plan for your life. And if not, I promise you, you will attract a beautiful woman who's able to love you and take care of you and give you those needs that you have. But you have to get in touch with that first. That's your job. I hope that helped. And if you want more guidance into the process of how to do that, you can PM me and for private counseling sessions. But I really hope that this video has helped you, maybe someone else out there, to deal with the abandonment wound and to rise higher in your power. I send you much love.